Hey fam, it's been a while. It is April 12th. It's almost noon on Wednesday. Just a week ago tomorrow, I had found out some really bad news about a death in my family. I was able to hop on the next plane and see people get together. It's been a rough week, but I'm happy to be back. I've missed you guys. I did do some community posts while I was out of town, but I haven't done a video in an entire week. So I might be a little rusty. I've got something I want to share. This to me is huge. You know how I do not like to criticize other channels, and this is not a criticism of a channel. I'm speaking about T-REV 757's one of his most recent lives from a couple of days ago. I'll put the link in the description. And I came across this in a Harsh Reacts Now video where he was speaking about it. And so I checked it out and I thought, my goodness, I feel like I need to address this. Um, I'll put Harsh Reacts video to the description too. So what I feel like I need to address is kind of a contamination of information. And again, I'm not criticizing T-REV. That man is amazing, and I love his channel. I'm a huge fan. So he had a live call-in show a couple of days ago, and Gigi Jin, I think is what she calls her, the little redhead from Arkansas, she phoned in and spoke for 54 minutes with T-REV. And then after that, a detective named John phoned in. And I'm just like, wait a second. I don't know if this Gigi Jin is the same Gigi as Gigi Escobar that is coming into a lot of chats and talking crazy talk, in my opinion. Oh, everything I say is simply my opinion, simply for the sake of conversation, hoping to open up a discussion. I'm always hopeful that I can learn something, and I gear my videos towards being educational. All my videos are made specifically for YouTube, which is an entertainment platform, so I always like to include that. So we're talking about the Idaho 4 case. My primary concerns are that we get convictions and get the dangerous, heartless, soulless perps off the street. Perp or perps. So let's just say that the person that they've arrested is the only perp. Then great. Quit tainting the jury pool. There's a gag order. Let's see what happens. Give him his day in court. Okay? So News Nation keeps coming up with all this source says junk. And I feel very distinctly like Gigi's goal in making this phone call into T-REV's show was to try to gain credibility for News Nation. I mean, she said some really weird things. Like, this is, I think, one of the most important things to me. She said, I have nothing to gain by lying. He was acting a fool. And, you know, this is a death penalty case. People would have a lot to gain by lying. To say that anybody would have nothing to gain by lying is crazy talk. This is, in my opinion, this is some serious gaslighting going on. She also said that she was part of the 96 Bravo Army military intel way back when. Now it's the 35 Foxtrot. And I got to say a couple of things about both of these callers. Anybody who was in that type of high clearance, high security clearance in the military is never going to come onto YouTube and tell people that. They're not even going to tell people that individually if they have any integrity whatsoever. And same thing with this detective, John. I'm sorry, but if you're a detective, you're not calling a YouTube channel to chat about your detective career. After you've retired, maybe, but no, not while you're still an active detective. That's beyond ludicrous in my opinion. So both of these callers contradicted themselves many times. I'd like to start with John, who said that of course the criminal defendant could have done this all by himself. For people to say that he couldn't have is just ridiculous. You know, these were just three women, only one dude. Of course, he could have done it all by himself. And then a minute later, he says, I've seen 5 foot tall woman unalive a 6'5" man with a fork. Yeah. How does that fit together? Because my point is that when you've got people fighting for their survival, it doesn't matter how big or small they are, usually. Of course, size can matter, and people can have an advantage by being heavier or taller or larger, but it goes both ways. People can also have an advantage by being smaller and wigglier and faster, right? So, um, both of them were doing a ton of speculating. Both of them said, "Oh, I'm just speculating," and then spoke as factual. And he, Detective John, said that he was speculating that the sheath was under one of the bodies when it was discovered at the 1122 King Road Red Room House. When I remember quite clearly from the affidavit that the lead detective wrote that he said that he could see the sheath laying on the bed next to the victims, Maddie's right side, I think is what he said specifically, while he was standing in the doorway or near the doorway. So all that inconsistency under the victims, next to the victims, huge, huge discrepancies. The story's falling apart, in my opinion. Um, so, yeah, people in law enforcement and many other professions are simply not allowed to run around social media, Facebook, YouTube, any of that, and discuss things that are pertinent to their primary duties. Not in real life. Not in my opinion. So it seemed to me that both of these people had an agenda too. Both of them used Ted Bundy's name and Jeffrey Dahmer's name, really trying to make this criminal defendant seem like one of those. And for all I know, he is, but for all I know, he isn't. And all of this talk of, well, maybe he's done this before, there's other unsolved cases from the area that he's from. You could say that about me, you, anyone. Maybe you've unalived people. There's unsolved cases from the area you're from. This is crazy talk, you guys. And the fix is in, and we can't have it that way. We've got to give this guy a fair trial. If there's other people involved, whether he's involved or not, if there's other people involved and they're still roaming free, it's a very dangerous predicament to be in. So let me run down some of this Gigi Jin Escobar, and maybe it's not the same Gigi, okay? Let's just go with Gigi Jin, I think is what she said her name was. She's like, oh, I'm just a little grandma. I'm out here with my grandkid. We're running up that hill. I'm getting the wagon. I'm trying to read off dates. This is so confusing. Somebody help me. Oh my goodness. Seriously. So she pretty much delineates in her 54-minute conversation with T-REV that she is source for News Nation. And she's really trying to build News Nation up. She said some things like, you people need to understand that without News Nation, you wouldn't have anything. Like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't want to bite the hand that feeds us fake news, right? she was saying that when she had the letter, the termination letter, that somebody from News Nation, one of Ashley Banfield's assistants, called her and they spoke on the phone for 3 hours while Gigi was vetting if she even wanted to give them the letter. Then she would call source. Holy smokes, man. You can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. So let's go back to the beginning. When she called, she said right away, last time I called, I talked about Ted Bundy right at the top of the conversation. And I don't even know what your topic of discussion is right now. Ha 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 ha. But let's talk about these tarot readings and these cards that are getting pulled because, man, they're really letting the cat out of the bag. Crazy talk. None of this holds any water in my mind. It's all BS. So, let's see. She talked about there being a third female involved that was maybe getting cut off from substances that were possibly involved. She talked about the boyfriend of the witness that was allegedly in the frozen shock phase and how there's like this bigger organization and goes to throw the whole kit and caboodle under the bus. So she's talking about Sigma Chi and how there was a fight that Ethan was involved in. I know we've all heard about the alleged fight, but the fight was because Ethan and Xana weren't supposed to leave Sigma Chi. They were supposed to stay there so that her philosophy, her theory was that somebody was going to go over and rough up the girls because of the situation. And maybe that somebody was the um, criminal defendant. So, they were concerned that Kaylee was going to tell when she moved away. And the roughing up turned into unaliving. And she says Kopaka was driving and the criminal defendant was dropped off. Um, And then there was the DoorDash driver with the dark hair, right? We've all been hearing about that. That the Jack in the Box employee has been revealing. And yeah, right. So Gigi says she's been having conversations with Dylan's boyfriend, like on some kind of like Snapchat or some type of social media, but he's not responding to her most recent question. Um, I gotta say, when she said, these are her words, that he was a completely out of control person, the criminal defendant, and that he went completely more out of control when he was put on the performance improvement plan, right? After he got in big trouble with his job and with his lack of professionalism and being in an altercation with his professor. Um, I just want to say it's my opinion that this caller on this show was completely out of control. She was all over the map, making insane allegations, stating that she knows these things for fact because of her connection to Source, because she is Source, or she's News Nation Source, and she's the bridge between Source and News Nation. Basically, in my opinion, that's what she was saying. And it just doesn't add up at all. She was trying to point a finger directly at the criminal defendant for his two friends that overdosed fatally in 2018, and I think the other one was maybe 2021. One was a female, one was a male. And, we don't know if he had any involvement in that or not. We don't know if he was there or not. We don't know if he'd seen these people in years or not. Like, that's some serious, crazy allegations. Absolutely. Um, So, it can be said that when Koberger was getting pulled over by law enforcement on or around August 21st of 2022, it could be that they were trying to sabotage any potential career that he would have possibly had in law enforcement by just dinging up his record with some stupid stuff. It could be that people in the law enforcement departments there that knew him or knew of him had some type of jealousy or rivalry. He's a little hot shot trying to get his doctorate degree in law enforcement in criminology, when these are people that are out there doing law enforcement and criminology every day. And they probably may or may not have bachelor's degrees, but they're educated from the police academy and from their hands on life experience. And, there's often people that feel threatened by somebody that's getting an academic education in the same field that they have a real life education in. That's not unheard of at all. And how many times do we hear people say, oh, he was so smart, but he made all these stupid mistakes? You know, it sounds to me like sour grapes and trying to tear them down. But that's just my opinion. Um, So let's see, what else did I want to say about oh my goodness. The guy who died of an overdose in 2021, I think that is Casey Arce, I'm not sure. Jeremy Tomas Saba, Jeremy Saba, 2021, OD friend. Yes. Okay. So Jeremy Saba's sister, maybe, was Casey, and I'm confused, but somewhere in there, one of those two people, Jeremy and or his sister, um, are the ones who accused Koberger of the unwanted noogies, which to me, I like to say what, as opposed to the wanted noogies, right? I keep saying if these are the worst things you can come up with on a criminal defendant, that he gave unwanted noogies in high school and he was awkward around females and he was overweight and he had an awkward Tinder date 8 years ago, I'd say that person has a pretty squeaky clean record if that's all you got, in my humble opinion. So Miss Gigi was, going on and on about how concerned she was about the community safety and the students and how can we help these students. And, she's going on to delineate the dates that she has in her fake letter, sorry, Freudian slip. Not really. That was intentional. I just have to confess, I can't ever try to pull a fast one with my people. You guys know me. I try to be a straight shooter. What you see is what you get. I like to tell it like it is. Life is complicated enough without adding complications. This is why the gaslighters piss me off like they do, because it's hard enough to keep up when nobody's gaslighting. Life gets really chaotic and there's a lot going on, and it's easy to get confused and cross your wires. And then when people are talking smack, it's really easy to get confused and cross your wires, which is the gaslighter's goal. The gaslighter's goal is to confuse. So, talking about the dates of the fake letter and the allegations of this trouble and that email and that meeting and how that correlates to the rabbit getting uh, sliced up, Buddy, the dog, getting sliced up. Um, it's pretty disgusting stuff. What is astounding to me is that it doesn't seem like the Moscow PD is working on these cases of animal cruelty. And that is a no-brainer. Again, if the criminal defendant did it, then he is already apprehended and off the streets and taken out of the general population and unable to hurt the public community at this moment while he's incarcerated. But if it wasn't him that committed these atrocities against these animals, we all know that that's a very dangerous psychological profile. Somebody who's going to intentionally hurt animals. Many, many serial unalivers have started with animals. We know that. So, what else do I want to put into this video before I wrap it up? Um, oh, just that the criminal defendant would be such a prime candidate to pin this on, being that he studied criminology with a very famous teacher and author and professor at the DeSales campus, that he studied in the Red Rum house that they have there. I don't know if it's house or houses, but he studied psycho-unalivers. He's an expert or working towards being an expert. So, yeah, people question anyone who has that kind of intrigue and interest. Like, oh, well, why would you be fascinated with that? You must be a pretty sick person. That would be a very easy person to use as your fall guy, in my opinion. So, let's see. Ms. Gigi also said that she's very scared that if BK gets out, that he could come after her. And, she was defending herself as well as Ashley Banfield that, that this is not easy for them to come out and talk like this. And I don't know. It looks like it's pretty easy for them to me, in my humble opinion. Oh, she even said that she's paid the big true crime community leaders via super chats and that they came after her and said she was lying when she came out with her first video, the one about the letter. And she was just going off trying to get us YouTube community all riled up about those YouTube content creators that are not even in our country and they're getting millions of views on our cases. We should all be upset about that. Yeah, no. And that there's more corruption stemming from the corruption. Oh my goodness. This girl was spinning out of control until she decided to just give up and the call was interrupted and she didn't call back. And I think she was really like had herself painted into a corner and saw no way out other than, whoops, lost the connection. That was what I thought. So what else do I want to add before I wrap this up? So this, I've got to toss this in there. She was speaking about a lady named Jenny, and she wasn't sure what Jenny's last name was or what her role was. She was the woman that deals with you when you're in trouble at Washington State University. And she literally said, I think what I made out was Jenny Momgungo. Momgungo or something like that. I was like, you're kidding, right? Like, didn't you mean Jenny blah blah? So, there was Professor Schneider, and then there was the director of the department, Willits, that allegedly they had the meeting with the criminal defendant on November 2nd. So, Director Willits, Professor Schneider, Jenny Mumbubaba, Manjambu, something like that. Yes, seriously. So then they put him on a performance plan, which, that's stressful. Yeah, it is. But it happens to a lot of people. And some of them do well and maintain their employment, and some of them don't. But they don't go and unalive almost half a dozen people and skip two. That's just not how performance plans outcomes usually go, in my humble opinion, in my experience, allegedly. All right, so, she claimed that he just popped off. That was the word she used. He popped off after the meeting. He only went over there to buy substances, but he had popped off. That's what happened. Yeah. So that's pretty much all I got. Let me apologize for missing an entire week with my people. I don't care what my excuse is. I love you guys. I miss you. I really was considering making videos while I was traveling, but I didn't, and it's good that I didn't because man, traveling is rough. It takes a lot out of me. I like to just stay put. I used to travel a lot. If you watch my videos, you know that because I'm talking about, oh, I've been there, I've been there, I've been everywhere. Not so much. I'm just happy where I am. I'm glad that I've traveled. I'm glad that I've had experiences, but I like to keep it simple. So I'm gonna keep it simple, going to sign off, going to ask you to hit that like button if you haven't already. Please like, share, subscribe if you would be so kind and you feel so inspired. I try really hard to make my videos authentic and relevant and real because none of us need any BS in our lives. And we certainly don't need any more BS in our lives than we already have, in my humble opinion. So I'm going to say peace out. I hope to see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. I hope you can get some exercise and sunshine and fresh air, relaxation. Always stay hydrated. Always get really good nutrition, protein, and veggies. As I'm preaching on my soapbox, telling you guys this all the time, it really makes me walk the walk when I'm talking the talk. So I don't want you to think that I'm telling you this as like a bossy mama type. I'm telling you this because it's what I need to hear, and I know it does a body good to do all those things. So I do it. I stay hydrated. I eat twice as many vegetables as fruit. I eat high protein. I exercise every day. I get my fresh air and sunshine. I usually get my sleep. I was very sleep deprived while traveling, which is probably why I had no real ability to get to any video making. I have to have my sleep. So I finally got a full night's sleep last night for the first time in almost a week. So I think I'll be bouncing back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. Peace out. Sending you light, sending you love. See you on the next one.